it would appear I forgot to put the Maccelli jersey up, but we have a Matias Maccelli contract. Let's go ahead and roll the intro.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I am your host, Robyn Leonio, alongside Matthew Jacobson, as we come back from the weekend with some signings. The Coyotes finally get going. Matthew, let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off with Matias Maccelli, what the one everyone wants to know about, because it is the good stuff.
Yeah, they got this one done, and I remember my projections, my predictions were literally everywhere on this, although it would have made sense to do like a two-year bridge deal. They do a 3-year bridge deal, and apparently some fans were a little concerned with it, but it's a 3-year contract at about, was that $3.4 million per season?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not too shabby. And the contract breakdown is $3 million this year. I think it goes up to 3.50 next season, and then $4 million after that. It's a progressive
contract structuring in the NHL to kind of work the cap and make it work in your favor is a really interesting thing that I still will never fully understand. Maybe down the road I'll be able to discuss the ins and outs of exactly why you have salaries bigger on 1 year, on like the next year versus the following year was lower and everything like that. But
I have one potential. One potential is to cut you off for a brief second. I do apologize, but
no good.
As someone who watches a lot of YouTube, there was a couple of people that I listened to that are like finance, and it's like, well, you want to feel like you're growing. So if you sign that multi-year contract, you structure it that way, so that way your salary keeps going up every year, so you constantly feel like you're growing and you're making more.
That part I get. What I'm saying is it goes from, like 3 to like 5 to like 4.
Oh yeah, no, you got to be a capologist. We don't have a PhD in whatever the hell that is. We're not educated, but okay. Matias Maccelli, the fake Italian himself. The should have been Calder winner, and I'll stand by that because the amount of people that just blankly were like, oh, well, his season wasn't as good. Dog, he literally led rookies in points per game, and if he would have played the additional games, he would have beat Matty Beniers in points. He already had him beaten assists, had him beaten points per game.
He missed how many? Like 20 games, right?
He played in 64, so he missed 18.
He missed 18 games, and he was the rookie with the most points per game. Yet people on Twitter will still believe they're signing that contract to some obscure player. And I'm like, obscure? Excuse me?
The fake Italian, Matias Maccelli. I can do that. I'm actually Italian. But last year, phenomenal year, 64 games, 11 goals, 38 assists, 49 points. And the thing is, he's been good for a while. Just take a brief look back in Tucson in 2021, 2022, 47 games, 14 goals, 43 assists, 57 points, above a point per game, 10 points above a point per game. Very consistently conservative with his shot. I do believe it's Popman. I'm terribly behind the times on the head coach for Tucson. Was talking about how as good as he is, he just doesn't like to shoot. That is not his first reaction, but he has a shot that you can't just forget about. And when he's putting up point totals like that, that's ridiculous. And then also for the Coyotes, 23 games, a goal, 5 assists, 6 points in 2021-22. He started off hot, tapered off a little bit, and then actually adjusted what his deficiencies were in his game and came to camp on fire, essentially staring the coaching staff in the face and saying, "You're not getting rid of me. You cannot get rid of me." And the legend of Matias Maccelli was born. Also, he played well in Liga, 51 games, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points in 2020, 2021. There you go. There's your little consistency for the last 3 years. 3 years is a trend, 3 in a row. There you go. Good performances by Matias Maccelli.
It's funny because, I think we've been talking about it on this show for a long time. Before you came in, it was me and Carl for a while. We've been always hyped up on Matias Maccelli, even before he had his amazing rookie year this year. It was like, we really want to see this dude grow because there's so much, excitement about what he can potentially do, what his ceiling can be. We're getting glimpses of it, and that was an example that gave it that was a glimpse. Honestly, man, I think that this rookie year was just a glimpse, and they still got him to a deal in which I believe some people are considering a steal based off how well he's growing and how fast he's growing.
Yeah, if you notice, the people that actually watch his game are all talking about either that's a steal or that's a little under what he probably could have got elsewhere. Because if you look at his pure passing ability, I got to watch it a decent bit in Tucson. Kind of, there are certain players I will really like. I'll pay attention to Tucson for. Connor Garland, Matias Maccelli. I guess I'm a big fan of short kings like myself, but this kid is so good. It's Ray Whitney light, and I will never stop making that comparison because while he is not the wizard, all right, do not mistake what I'm saying. He has similar attributes. He is so natural and crisp with his passing, right on target all the time. He knows where to go. He knows where to put that puck, and almost 50 points as a rookie, and he missed time. Almost 50 points as a rookie, almost 40 assists. This kid was on pace to average more than assist per game. An assist every other game. Excuse me. I misspoke for a second. That's how good this kid is. Now, we cannot expect him to just constantly do better every single year to where like he'll get 120 points, right? He'll probably be, a 40 to 60 point scorer. Sounds like his range. That is so good in this top six. And if he gets kicked down to the third line, that middle six in a couple of years, you cannot undervalue this. This is a phenomenal contract unless God forbid something happens, but that's with any contract. This is a phenomenal contract. I love everything about this, and just that sneaky NHL shot. It is, if you pay attention to his coaching staff, you listen to anyone that actually knows this kid's game. He doesn't do it often. It is not his first reaction. He wants to pass. He wants to set up. He wants to look for his teammates. But when he has that shot, when he has that opportunity, this kid, it's an NHL shot. It is an NHL level shot. Matias Maccelli, my goodness.
Yeah, it is. It is fantastic. I think we've got a chance to see it, pretty close when we're watching it, and there's just something in the finesse. It is finesse. It is an art. How well he makes it. How well he's
Matias Maccelli is art confirmed.
Yeah, he is art.
Well, you know what else is art? The word we got to tell you about today from FanDuel. We'll get right back on this topic, but first, FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That is right. Bet just $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend on everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to record the first home run. All that on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Did I mention official owner of my wallet? I actually recently used it. No lie. I recently used it, and I actually forgot if I had to do a promo code or not. No, I just had to remember the script that I've read so many times. FanDuel.com/lockedon, and there you go.
You gotta love it. Let's go ahead and get maybe some closing thoughts on Matias Maccelli before we move on to Prosy, because I think we can go into that and pretty extensively as well. But and I want to point this out as an example when we talked about it potentially being a steal. I think it was friend of the podcast Mike Gould, I believe, who said it. He's like, hey, if the contract is below $3.5 million a year, it is a steal. And it was right under there. It was right under the $3.5 million. And you're like, love it.
Well, considering if he wouldn't have got hurt, he might have squeaked 60 points. Probably. Mm-hmm. He's on pace to be right around 60 points. You have any idea how much that's worth in the open market? Like, I think my earliest projections on my previous podcast before was like, it was a short-term deal, but it was like up to $6 million a year, depending on how well he kept producing. And it's like, if he was a UFA this year, somebody would have given him something stupid. Just straight up, he would have got something. So that ends up being really good. Again, young, fast, good skater. I'm not going to say he's like the greatest skater, but he's a good skater. He's got a finesse to his game. Phenomenal pass, phenomenal situational awareness. He knows where his teammates are at. We've said it before. That shot, again, stop underrating it. That he has a NHL level shot. So I'm so happy they got this done. God, I'm so excited they got this done.
You know, one thing that it also tells me, and as well as as well as a lot of the other signings that they've been making. People are like, and it amazes me that people are still wondering. It's like, oh, you're gonna make the Coyotes are still gonna try to, take bad contracts or sign or just sign bad contracts so they can reach the floor or whatever. Hey, they already reached the floor. That's not their problem. They're signing good contracts because they want to be more competitive now. We're past that point in the rebuild, Matt. We are past the point in which they are taking crap contracts and they're actually building. What a concept.
It wasn't just Craig Morgan reporting it. As Craig Morgan also said, Bill Armstrong's already said it multiple times this offseason alone. They're not – if it makes sense, they'll take a bad contract. But they're not looking for it. They're not shopping for it. That's not what they're actively shopping for.
Year 1 and year 2? Yeah.
Yeah.
Year 3?
Now you're trying to let those bad contracts go away because they have a projected $14 million in cap space, meaning, yes, if the opportunity arises, they'll look at taking a contract if you want to give them more than enough assets. They don't need to. They're well above the cap floor. I think they're like, $7 or $8 million above the cap floor, and they still have to sign McBain. And I think there's still 1 or 2 more contracts they can or probably will sign. Like, they went out of their way to spend a decent amount. It's still a budget team. This is not a salary cap team. This is a budget team that actually used a little bit more of that budget on talent this year. Look, I dropped the puck. Drop the puck because this is going to be a better season than last year. What did they have last year? Was it 28 wins? A little bit under 30? Or was it around 30? Yeah. That number last season keeps going over my head. It'll be like 5 more, 7 more this year.
Yeah, no, I think we're just excited to get past the doom and gloom years. Like,
we can get that
we were in so much pain, and look, we cover the Coyotes. We still are experiencing pain. We've been talking about, arena stuff for a while, a lot of other things. It is a lot. So if we can have one good thing, and if that good thing is the hockey, we're okay. We are okay.
Yeah. Especially with Matias Maccelli sticking around.
Especially
Matias Maccelli. Go on, Robin. Say Matias Maccelli. Get into it.
Maccelli.
There you go. Bully Robin in the comments for that terrible fake Italian.
Hey, look, I am Latina and Filipina, okay?
Leave the Italian stuff to the greasy fat guy over here. Anyway. Let's go from bad Italian to bad Russian because Ivan the Terrible, he is back. 1 more year. Ivan is back.
Ivan.
Oh man,
Ivan
1
Prosvetov.
year, what is that? Around $800K. He gets, I think, a little more of a raise guaranteed in Tucson. I think it's a little more incentives to it. You guys can figure all that part out. I don't care about that aspect. I just care about he's back. He's signed for 1 more year, but at 24 years old, this kind of feels like he will have arbitration rights after this. He will still be an RFA, but it really does feel like we stand by this. The message of this draft was, hey, we just essentially, here's all these goalies we just drafted. We already have guys like Thornton and Coronin in the system. Here's some more. If you can't step up, and they also got a really good backup goaltender in Tucson, so that way you have someone to push Ivan. Then if you have an injury, you call up Ivan, whatever. But you have someone to push Ivan down there in Tucson. If you can't reach where we want you to reach, this tells me this is it.
100%. Like, I feel like, it is a make or break for Ivan. I feel like everyone has so much high hopes that he will make it, but it's hard to tell because he hasn't met the milestones that we've expected in certain years. He's close, but unfortunately, close isn't enough. That's why they have all these goaltenders. Like, Anson Thornton just turned 20. He's officially eligible for the minors. He can try to fight for a potential starter job. I mean, he won't. Honestly, he will, but he could. And again, we got a chance to see some of the goalies a couple of the goalies at prospect camp. Like, Rabel looks great.
Yeah.
So these goalies are coming in,
and unfortunately, his numbers haven't been as good in the AHL. Like, his numbers have actually, funny enough, gotten better at the NHL level. His save percentage from 2020, 2021 was at .824. The next year, same 3 games played, both in 2021 and 2022, .875. Then last year, it goes up to an .880. But that's disappointing because those first 3 or 4 games, his save percentage was 8 or 950, 960. He had a ridiculous save percentage those first few games. And then last year it falls off a cliff. And then he ends up with an .880 save percentage of .398, which is his career best NHL level goals against. It went .415, .422, .398. But even at Tucson, his rookie year, .909 save percentage, .288 goals against. The next season, .895, .354. The next season, .880, .366. And then last year, a .900 with a .306. Tucson, yes, a couple of those years had really bad defense, especially 2021, 22. I cannot fully blame him. However, 100%. He goes through these streaks, and as someone who I don't get to watch enough Roadrunners hockey, but I keep notes for every game. I have a notebook every single season since 2018-19, and I keep notes for every game. He'll go through great stretches. He'll go through really bad stretches. He'll go through really mediocre stretches. It's a consistency thing for Ivan. He needs to get that handled. He needs to be the clear number 1 at Tucson this year. And he needs to, in my opinion, he needs to fight for the backup job in Arizona. He will not get it, but he needs to come into camp fighting like hell for it because I want this kid to succeed. I love this guy's game. Big fan of Ivan for years now, but he has to show it. He has to keep taking those steps.
We had so much hope for him when he first came in. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Aiden Hill was still the starter in Tucson when when Ivan first came in.
Yep.
And we were kind of we're joking about it because back in the ECHL or in his, in Russia or whatever, this dude was having fun as a goalie. He was doing cartwheels on the ice. He's having a blast. Everyone's loving, Ivan Prosvetov coming in. And then after that, I think it just kind of flattened out. I mean, there were a lot of hopes for him. I think, and I've mentioned it. I had Kat Silverman on the show. Everyone in Arizona hockey, everyone in the hockey community who knows who Kat Silverman is and the what she did, what she did for a few years with covering goalies and everything like that. She since kind of just took a step back in the last couple of years to take care of personal stuff, which again, which we can't blame her for, but we miss her. By the way, Kat, if you're listening to this, we miss you. But yeah, Yeah, Kat said it was like, I'm not. She was the one that said I'm not sold on Aiden Hill. I think Prosvetov is supposed to be the next one. That's why everyone had the expectation. Everyone had the expectation. Like I was still pretty high on Aiden Hill, not quite on Prosvetov yet at the time, but that's because Hill was further along this development. I didn't get a chance to see enough, and I still haven't.
Like Prosvetov was showing for Rapid City, he had like a 930 save percentage. That first year in Tucson, I think it was only 27 games, but he had above a 900 save percentage. He was playing really well. He set those expectations for himself because he's a good goalie.
Mm-hmm.
There's just consistency. And here's the thing: when you're playing in front of a bad AHL level defense, yes, there is some wiggle room, but you cannot. It's all about how you react. Because I got to talk to Ivan very briefly. It was a very brief exchange at Mullet Arena, and I was like, dude, I hope you get more starts, and I hope you run with it because he was playing well at that point, and I'm a fan of this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I still hope that. I still genuinely hope that. But he set those expectations with the solid play, and it just the consistency, it did not continue. Now, the NHL numbers continuing to go up year on year is a good sign, but when he hasn't even broken 900 save percentage yet, it's going to cause some concerns. He only has 13 total NHL games played. It's one of those things where you kind of have to take that step back and be like, yeah, he has some good stuff. He's also been blown out a handful of times. He's also looked not very good a handful of times. He's looked unengaged. He hasn't been able to elevate the Roadrunners. He just hasn't been what they need him to be. And that sucks. All right. And I want that to change. I want that consistency this year.
Yeah, no, and that's why it's this 1 year deal. I feel like I want to see the absolute best from him this next year. To be honest, I think we will see. Like, I think that next year the Roadrunners, I have a firm belief that next year's Roadrunners are going to be pretty darn good, and I feel like that should boost Ivan's stats a little bit, but he still needs to show it.
Yeah, and look, the Coyotes have so many good prospects that I still think that they should be heavily favoring more of their prospects going to the AHL a little earlier. Like, I think Duda's technically eligible. I would be pushing for stuff like that a little bit earlier than later. But they have so many good prospects coming into the system. So many good young players are going to be playing in Tucson over the next few years. They're kind of, you're going to see that shift. You should see that shift of Tucson being a more successful team and a little more consistent, because they also, Tucson as a whole, I don't know if you noticed this, minus that year that they fell off a cliff, they always start off every year hot. They start off really good for the first month and a half, and then it tapers off. It'll nosedive at one point. It'll be mediocre throughout the rest of it, and they'll either limp into the playoffs or they'll miss the playoffs.
That's how it's been the last few years. I miss the time. I miss the time, like my first year covering the Roadrunners. I had a blast because that was the best Roadrunners team that it was ever, put on the ice. Mm-hmm. Because that team not only won the Pacific Division, but I think had the best Western Conference record in the regular season. And they were going into the off season, like they were going into postseason really good. They freaking knocked the Barracuda out without any problems at all. I was like, this team is good, and then they just kind of, fell into a wall against Texas, unfortunately. I was excited for that. I was like, this is gonna be nice.
That was that 16-17 team with like
that was
Fish,
the 17-18 team.
Because remember, they had Tucson's had.
That was the year again. As I mentioned multiple times, that was the year that that Strome, Merkley, and Krause were on the same darn line. Like,
Robin's freaking out right now. They're on the line. They're on the same line.
3 first-round draft picks on one line. Like, that was awesome to see.
Yeah, and expect something similar moving forward for this current Roadrunners team in the next couple of years, because as some of these kids age up a little bit, Hey, they don't have to go back to the juniors. Hey, these kids are probably ready for North American ice. Hey, these kids need to get ready, for this level of game. Let's throw them in the AHL. Maybe give them a couple test games to start of the season in the NHL, so you know where you got to get. Put them down the AHL and then have them work on it. Like if you're a Tucson fan, definitely over the next couple of seasons. This is not sponsored, by the way. I do not get a cut if you buy a ticket. We're definitely looking to buying some tickets for the next couple of seasons because there should be some pretty massive improvements.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, I've got my connections to Tucson still, so I think Matt, you and I should definitely just get down and cover the games as much as we can. Because I feel like that team will be fun to watch.
Pick at least one game a month. Let's just find like a road trip. The Coyotes are on. Be like, all right, we're going to this Tucson game.
I think what would be fun, what actually could be potentially fun, is we do, let's say, of course, a Tucson game, an actual Tucson home game, but Tucson against San Diego, against Ontario, against Palm Springs, and against Henderson. Those are all the close teams.
I wouldn't mind that at all, especially Henderson, because with other stuff I'm doing, I might be in Henderson later on, like a month or so. But that's me getting a little arrogant. Anyway, Ivan, get back to Prosley. We are running low on time. This feels like that make it or break it year. And last year, I am a little disappointed that he tapered off the way he did, and then when he went back to Tucson, it just wasn't the same. It just kind of felt like some guys. You can only get so much out of the AHL. Some guys take going out of the AHL a certain way, and I hope that's not what Ivan ends up being. Because if you look at it, and this is kind of sad to say, he's one of the best goalies they've developed so far, and that is drafted and developed so far. So make of that one what you will, but it feels like that do or die, and I want him to take this opportunity and push for the starting job next year. I want Karel Vejmelka to be on the trading block because Ivan's playing so well. You can't lose out on Ingram or Ivan. That's what I want, and that's not because I dislike Karel Vejmelka.
It's because we really hope that Ivan turns out to be what we all thought he was going to be a couple of years ago, to be the future goaltender. Of the
he still has the tools. He still has the tools.
He's still there. I believe it. I believe in him. Like, for me, and again, like I said, I'm the cynic. I will be like, I don't believe it until I see it. But I believe it. I want to believe it. I really do.
Believe. He's got this. Come on, Ivan. I swear to God, if I ever see Ivan again, he's going to be like this puny runt.
I feel like I should just like make like a a fun like side bet, not on like any like money bet or anything like that, but like just kind of like put like a incentive for me to hope for everyone else to hope that he develops, and not even necessarily for me. As something that's like, hey, maybe I got to do something if Ivan makes it to the, pushes into like the backup position.
I got it. I'm going to, on record right here, I'm going to pull a prediction directly from my anus and throw it onto the screen right now. Here's the prediction. He's going to have a .917 save percentage in Tucson, and he will push for at least 5 NHL games this season.
Okay.
Watch how horribly that ages because he has a .930 in 20 games. I am the optimist. We really are the perfect combination. You are the cynical, the cynical jackwagon, and I am just the hopeful optimist that people are wondering what kind of opioids I am currently on.
And those that have listened every day, and I'll put this as my final thought to kind of like to get ready to close things out because we're running out of time. Those that listened every day are probably saying, "Wait, what happened?" Because when Carl Pavlak was co-host of this show, I was the optimist and he was the cynic.
Carl's a very serious individual. He's a very, very serious gentleman.
He is. We love him, though. We love him.
Friend of the show, Carl Pavlak.
Anyways, do you have any final thoughts before we close off?
Yes, Matias Maccelli and Ivan the Terrible, which I thought sounded cool, and that's what I gave him for a nickname, and I'm pretty sure that might be offensive, and I'm not sure if it is or not, so please don't be offensive.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of Locked On Coyotes. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM radio app. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Threads at Locked On Coyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.